It's the show where Hawaii's newsmakers come to talk and to take your questions live. From the nation's capital to Honolulu Hale, from the state legislature to the fifth floor, we bring the experts to you and ask them what you want to know. Spotlight Hawaii with Yanji Denise and Ryan Kalesuji on the digital platforms of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser.
Well, aloha and happy Aloha Friday. Thanks so much for tuning in here to Spotlight Hawaii on the digital platforms of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. I'm Ryan Kalesuji. Yanji Denise has the day off, and this morning we are going to be spotlighting something that many in our community have been looking forward to. We are less than a month away from the Honolulu Rail opening its doors and welcoming people on board. And this morning we're taking a deep dive into everything you need to know before jumping on the rail. Joining me this morning is Roger Morton, Director of the Honolulu Department of Transportation Services, and John Nouchi, who is the Deputy Director of the department. Thanks so much both for joining me this morning.
Yeah, we're happy to be here. This is a historic event, and later today at 1:30 today, we're officially going to transfer the rail system from HART to the Department of Transportation Services. We're going to do a little ceremony at the Mission Memorial today.
Well, I know a lot of people looking forward to that. And Roger, we'll just start off with you. You know, we know that there have been some dry run operations that have been going on over the past few months. How have things been going with these test runs, and what are you learning so far about how this rail is operating?
Well, we've been very pleased that the system is operating beyond our minimum requirements. We're operating the system at 99, 99.5, sometimes 100% of without any type of mishaps at all. And that's phenomenal for any transit system. I mean, there's always things that go on, but so far, so good. Additionally, HART has been, fixing up the last little bits. They've completed their work on the hammerheads. They're now going into the stations. They're touching up paint. We're trying to make the stations look as best we can, and they look fantastic when the public gets to see them. So all in all, things are going great. Our confidence that we'll be able to operate on June 30th is very, very high.
Yeah, we know that the mayor is looking forward to that, making that announcement in his State of the City address just earlier this year. John, we'll come over to you. You know, there is a lot of questions right now about routes and coordinations with various stop times and turnaround times. Why can you tell us just about the logistics of scheduling and how all that will work for those who, really are going to be riding this rail?
Absolutely. This is a really exciting time, not just because of rail, but we're introducing a lot of change into our bus network. Now, in a very short 21 days, we will be opening our rail system, but the real magic is going to start on July 1st. Now, on July 1st, all the bus routes that connect to and from rail stations and pass by rail systems, all of them will see some amount of change, such that we can have better connectivity to neighborhoods that maybe had very little service. Some had no weekend service. Some didn't have all-day service. And in all, on July 1st, we're going to activate over 12 new routes to very varying communities, many different communities. Starting on the west side, there will be a direct connection from our Makakilo hillside to Kapolei to the west side rail stations. And along the alignment, we'll see Pearl City will get a whole new bunch of community circulators, as will Aiea and Halava. Now, on the outside of that, we will have great connections to both ends of our rail alignment. On the west side, we will have a core network of buses anchored by the Route 46, which will operate on the same frequency as rail. So rail will operate every 10 minutes all day, and so will the connecting bus routes. So get off the rail at UH West Oahu, at the Keone'ai UH West Oahu station, or at the Kualaka'i East Kapolei station. There will be a Route 46 bus there to connect you all the way through to Kamakana Ali'i, to the villages of Kapolei, to downtown Kapolei, all the way to Kapolei Commons on the west side. And on the east side, at the Halava Aloha Stadium station, we have a modified Route A, which will connect from that Halava station, go via freeway, and service riders in Chinatown, downtown, Ala Moana, all the way to UH Manoa.
And so just a quick follow-up on that. Do you have an average time of what that is expected to be? So say someone is starting at the beginning of the line, taking the rail, going and getting off at that Halawa Aloha Stadium station, but then actually having to get on the bus to then go into downtown. What is that extended time, expected time frame when you're considering two different modes of transportation?
When you have to do a transfer, there's always some time in between. However, if you ride rail from end to end, you'll get a consistent 21 to 22 minute travel time from all the way from East Kapolei to Halawa and back, and so less if you're using intermediate stops. When you get to that end, say at Halawa Aloha Stadium, depending on the time of day, so when you have the bus on the ground with all the other mixed traffic, weekends will be less, weekdays will be more. We're looking at about, maybe about another, let's say 15 to 30 minutes of variability to get into town.
All right. Roger, I want to get into some of the numbers here. There are some talks of overall, just like the projections of riderships and the financial impact that this will have to the overall city budget. How are you looking at the operational costs thus far, knowing that there are still some uncertain variables and some, of course, we don't have any hard numbers with statistics of riderships, but talk about how you are crafting the budget for something this size and this service.
Well, sure. First of all, this is our interim opening that goes, from that. And really by the end of the year, I think the public will be aware that we're going to start operating, although we won't be in service, but they'll see rail cars traveling on our airport section as well, probably by the end of this calendar year. And then within about 18 to 24 months, we'll open that second section. And then, of course, ultimately we'll get into downtown and to Civic Center. Now, in terms of our impact on our budget, our partners with Hitachi, our contract with them is $54 million per year for a full year. In addition to that, DTS pays certain expenses like electricity, which is a key expense. And so the total with Hitachi comes in our rail division comes to $73 million for our next fiscal year. That compares with Handyvan, which is about $66 million. And of course, our bus system, which is about $260 million. So not small numbers, but that's what they are. Now, in terms of ridership, in this first opening, again, it is just an opening from East Kapolei to the stadium. Frankly, not the two most popular destinations until we get our system into town. But we're confident that we're going to see by end of this year that we'll see 8,000 to 10,000 riders per day on the rail system. By the time it gets to airport, my expectation is that we'll do about 25,000 a day on the rail system by the time we get to airport. And by the time we get to downtown and Civic Center, we'll be looking at 85,000 riders per day. So ridership we expect to grow as we bring our system closer and closer into town.
One of the things that you guys are, as we've mentioned earlier, going through these testing processes, you guys are learning about systems and what maybe best practices overall. I'm wondering if there's anything out there that you are concerned with people not having enough information about as they come on. Are there anything confusing elements that people should be aware of, knowing that this is the first time that they're doing anything like this here on Oahu, and maybe for the first time for some riders who maybe haven't had the opportunity to go to a large metropolitan city to have had any form of rail transportation in their lifetime? What are some of the things that you might be concerned about that people might not know or not have enough information on?
Well, lack of information is a barrier, I think, on almost every city. First, in Honolulu, we have a darn good bus system to begin with, and we've always had a pretty good ridership. In fact, our ridership nationwide, in terms of per capita ridership, not absolute, but in per capita ridership, we're usually always in the top 5 or top 6 of cities. Obviously, the large cities, New York, Boston, Washington, San Francisco, exceed us. But after that, we really pull above our weight. We are higher than other cities in the country. Now, the best way for, there's so many different issues for that. And that's one reason why during this upcoming 4th of July weekend from July 1st to July 4th, we're going to be making our system free. And the reason that we want to do that is we want people, not just from Eva and not just from Pearl City and from areas that rail serves from Kapolei, but I would really be happy. I want to invite the entire island to come and sample the rail system. We'll have people at the stations on the weekend to help people learn how to use the system. We're going to make the system free during the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of July. In order to get the free, I just got to tell everybody, get your holo card. You have to have a holo card in order to ride the system on those days, even though we won't be taking anything off the card. You just need a holo card to get in the gate. And John, you've got a couple of other things that you wanted to bring up too, I know.
Yeah, actually, but I want to actually double up on Roger's message to get your holo card. Holo is the gateway to all transportation island-wide in the city and county of Honolulu. So don't wait till rail opening day to get your holo card. While you will be able to purchase one at our ticket vending machines, which we abbreviate as TVMs at each station, we want to encourage everybody to just be able to flow right into the station, already have your holo card. You can get that at many retailers, including 7-Eleven, Times, and Foodland. Also, if you look at holocard.net, you can go ahead and see where the different merchants are where you can get these holo cards. So that's the main thing we wanted to let everybody know. Be ready. We're really excited. We know how our island people, how we come out for new things. And, you know, we're very ready for the crowds, and we're actually even making contingency plans should we attract too many people on our opening weekend.
Well, let's talk about that, and maybe just the overall capacity. If you can share, what these rail carts are capable of holding. Will people be allowed to stand like what we see in Japan and New York? If you can talk about some of the logistics and overall load management of the rail.
Okay, what's interesting is with some of these, with our trains, we are operating on a fixed guideway. So our trains are unique in that it is a metro system. So it operates separately from traffic. It never mixes with traffic. And by doing that, we could actually have a lot larger trains on capacity than most cities are used to. We've chosen with a 4-car design in which you can actually walk from one end to the other of the train. And that's over 260 feet long, which is actually, if you compare it to what we have now on our streets, just for a visual comparison, one of the longest buses we have, the articulated bus with the accordion in the middle, is 60 feet. So one train is longer than 4 of our bigger buses, and they are wider too. We have a lot of room inside. When you get to see the inside of it, we're really excited for people to get introduced to the interiors of our trains. They are vast. I mean, I think that's a good word to describe it. They're expansive. There's a lot of room to actually bring stuff on board, and we have dedicated spaces for bicycles. And even if you can bring a bike on, you can bring a cooler on, you can have that in place. But we just ask that everybody bring safe things on board. Don't bring anything that's going to be a disturbance or a threat to other passengers, and keep it in your custody. When you have it, hold on to it. If you have a suitcase, bring it on, hold on to it.
Roger, did you have anything else about just maybe rules? There are oftentimes people wonder, can I eat on these cards?
Well,
I mean, what are some of the rules about just ridership in general?
Yeah, we don't allow eating or even drinking, particularly sugary drinks, things that'll cause a mess to the seating and to the floors and things like that. Just using common sense, I think, is what we're asking. We do have a long list of things that are just common sense that that govern the way we operate. And I think I want to take this opportunity to speak about a little bit about safety and security on the system as well. Our systems don't have any drivers, which makes us unique in the United States, although in Canada and Europe and Asia, there's lots and lots of driverless systems. But how do we keep our riding public safe? Well, we've come up with a pretty complicated and comprehensive security system. First of all the stations will have station attendants, so there'll be somebody there to help you if you're at a station. Hitachi, our partner, will be providing ambassadors to ride the system. So rather than having a driver, there's going to be somebody on the system. Now, we're not going to be covering every train with a person, but we'll have more than half of our trains will have a representative on it. Now, all the trains also have cameras and live video feeds. There's cameras within the cars. There's cameras on the platform. There's cameras at the station and at the park and rides. And we have a sophisticated security system that'll be manned, but also has built-in artificial intelligence, AI, that'll help the cameras detect. We have over 1,600 cameras in the system, and we've just completed that the cameras are viewable both from our rail operations center, but also from our joint transportation management center, where all of our first responders have their offices. So we have that. Our level 2, we have contract security that the department has got, and these are for providing a security presence on the system. And then our level 3 is our partners at HPD are tasked with responding if there are any incidents. And the response from HPD when they've got to ride the system and see it has been overwhelming. They're so impressed by the system that we hope to see them as regular riders on the system.
We got some questions here that we want to bring in. Eddie's asking, can we bring golf bags? We know that there are questions about what people are allowed to bring on. There may be some who have some of these bikes and bicycles that we often see people try to bring on the bus, and there's that rack in front of the bus. How are you managing with some of these other items that people are bringing with them?
I think when we rail, like I said, the vehicles are much bigger than our buses are. So when you're talking about just rail in isolation, I think you can safely bring anything on board that is not in a danger or a harm or a threat, doesn't have any sharp edges or isn't dirty or anything or have any chemicals in it. So golf bags, interesting. I believe that golf bags would be okay to bring on rail. But we do still have ordinances in place that are very specific about what golf equipment you can bring on board a city bus. So if you're just using rail in isolation, the rules are going to be a little bit different.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the park and ride stations, because we know that is also something that is a big part of this effort to get things going, to allow people to come to these stations, park their car and move on. If you guys can share a little bit more information about where these park and ride stations are, how they will operate, and how they will be managed as you continue to unveil these services.
Sure. First, I'd make a plug to in many communities, it's even better because we have such a rich and a close-grained transit system. For many riders, just getting on the bus and going to the rail station is actually better than a park and ride. But for park and rides, we have lots at our West Oahu, University of Hawaii at West Oahu. We have a lot at Ho'opili, and we have a lot at Aloha Stadium. We're also looking at trying to find some other alternatives in the short term. And then in our planning horizon, we're committed to adding another 1,000 or so, at least 1,000 more park and ride spots by the time our system gets to downtown. So I think that for the interim opening, I don't think park and ride lots for the Ewa side and for most of the areas will be an issue. For our Pearl Highlands, where the decision was made not to put in, that's a key area that the department is committed to finding a solution for that, again, prior to us opening up the system into downtown.
We haven't had any of these specific questions here yet today, but the last time we had Laurie Kahikina on here from HART, there was a question regarding those with disabilities and how they would be able to navigate this system, those who may be in wheelchair or others who suffer from some sort of limitation. How accommodating is this train for those who suffer from some of those disabilities that may have a little more difficult time navigating through the system?
So we've last week we hosted a large group of our friends with disabilities and groups that advocate for the disabled, and we can proudly say that every station and vehicle that we operate as part of our rail system not only meets but most often exceeds ADA requirements. Most of the entryways, gangways are flush surfaces. There are hardly any large gaps to overcome. We have elevators and other accessible equipment infrastructure that actually help overcome vertical circulation. And I think even to that end, we've done our work to try to make sure that even if you're connecting between bus and rail, that there is a reasonable amount of travel time that you can get from the rail platform down to a connecting bus on the street.
Forgive this question may come across as a bit naive, but I'm just trying to figure out how this all runs on one line and one system. How many actual trains will be operating at any time, any given time? Do you add more on during peak hours? How does that all work with given the spacing and the timing of everything and the coordination, being that there really is only one track going in both directions?
Well, actually, there are two tracks.
One going east and one going west.
Yeah.
And so how does this work? I mean, it's for the interim that we're going to be running 5 trains. We're going to be running those trains every 10 minutes on a clock face headway. And that should be a very consistent every 10 minutes. As we get when we get the system to town, we do have the option of increasing the frequency during the busiest times. We could increase our frequency with the number of trains that we have. We could increase our frequency down to every 6 minutes if we when by the time we get to downtown. So we do have the ability to have it. Now the way it works is one track goes east, one track goes west. When the train gets to the end of a station, basically it turns around and goes and crosses over and takes the other track to be on the right track going back. At the terminal stations, in the long term, you can have 2 trains in the station if you're running 6-minute headways. But it's a very state-of-the-art system. So I think the public is going to be just blown away when they see how effortlessly the systems go and turn around.
John, I know you had mentioned and talking about the Holo cards, but if you can just maybe expand a little more about fares, what people can expect to pay for this, because there is, I think, still some confusion out there if there is any difference between bus fares and this rail fares. If you can shed some light on what people can expect to pay.
So it's very easy. The rail will be treated exactly like any other bus route. So the same fare that applies on bus applies on rail. And if you transfer from one to the other using a Holo card, if you tap on a bus and tap on a rail, that'll be treated as a free transfer if you tap within 2.5 hours. So all the same rules we have that apply to transfers, day passes, fare capping, every rule that we have on the Holo card just treats rail as just simply another bus route. And I think, Ryan, I want to go back a little bit to our last discussion that we were just talking about. Our schedule of operations is very easy. Anytime rail is open, which is going to be 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays, and 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekends and holidays. Anytime during that period, trains will operate every 10 minutes. So no need for a schedule. You can expect that trains will operate very regularly upstairs on the guideway whenever we're open.
And just to clarify, those hours of operation are just for the interim. Do you folks intend to expand those hours as service expands as well?
Absolutely. We're looking at an expansion to the service to be active in about 2 years after we open. So we're assuming that by July of 2025, we will have extended our rail to about another 4 miles and another 4 stations to Middle Street. Now, why that's really exciting to us is that at that time, we will have a station in the Daniel K. Inouye Honolulu International Airport. And from that point of view, we can really see how our West Side riders can really benefit from direct access to the airport. And at that time, we understand that the ridership will then pick up and we can expect a lot more riders. So we are going to be expanding our hours of service at that time. So we're going to probably hold tight to about the 5 a.m. start, but we are looking at later times, including 11 p.m. and all the way up until midnight.
Roger, of course, you've had a chance to work with this project over the last few years and see how things have evolved. What are you most excited about for people to experience for the first time?
Well, I mean, this is a historic occasion because this is 55 years in the making. If you go back to the original Frank Fosse proposals back in the 70s, back in the 90s, and so on. So, for myself, and I've been an observer for much of that time myself. I've seen a lot of false starts. So I'm just very excited that we're going to finally have a train in Honolulu. Now, when you look at the cities on the mainland, we're late to the game. I mean, when you go just looking at the West Coast, which was late to put in transit, you've got services in Vancouver, in Seattle, in Portland, in Sacramento, of course, San Francisco, LA, San Diego. So from that point of view, I think that we are a little late to the game of having this, but I think that it's going to be transformational for our city. We're still looking at providing several tens of thousands of additional dwelling units on the west side, in Ho'opili, in Koa Ridge. And this system it's really, that's when it's going to show its real worth, is how do we accommodate, say, another 80,000 trips per day that folks want to operate as they move into new residences.
And John, for yourself, any last thing that you want to share here this morning, or just make sure that people know about getting on this training? And like I said, there's a lot of excitement, but I'm sure no doubt there's still a lot of questions. But what is your message to those who are watching this morning?
I share Roger's sentiment about this is going to be a really big day for our island and actually for our state. We're bringing the largest infrastructure project to its first opening. And it really is just a teaser for all the good things that do come. And we've seen the cascading effects, the benefits of rail and smarter growth and smarter development in cities across the nation and the world. We're not immune. I mean, we're not different we are different than a lot of places, but I have a strong belief that we are doing the right thing in opening rail here, and that we're overcoming generations of non-investment into a transit system that could be far bigger than what we have right now.
Roger, any final message that you have this morning, or any information that you want to get out there just as we close up?
Sure. We are, as I said earlier, we're going to be fare free. We're also going to be partnering with some of local businesses along the line alignment, and they'll be passing out free holo cards with a one single day, all day pass on them. And the purpose for that is I really want people in the West that have never really considered using transit to have the opportunity to sample it. I think the hardest thing for us is we want to get people on the trains so they can just see how comfortable and seamless traveling is on the train. Now, clearly, by the time we get to downtown, that'll be a new ballpark. But right now, what I want people to do is come out and just try the train.
All right, Roger Morton and John Nouchi, thanks so much for joining me this morning and sharing all that information about the rail. We know that there is a lot of anticipation in the community. This is a long time coming, and a lot of people are just eager to get on there and really experience this train ride for themselves. So thanks so much for joining me this morning.
And thanks for having us, Ryan.
Aloha. Well, there we heard from both Roger and John there detailing what riders can expect for the rail project and this train that, as I said, many people have been anticipating for quite some time now, seeing the development and how long this is taking to get to this point. But we heard from the director there earlier in our show saying that he is very confident that they'll be able to meet their June 30th launch date, and also noted today that there will be a sort of ceremony and handing off of the official keys, if you will, to the city. So this is marking some very important milestones within this project's history. But they are excited, saying that so far these test runs are not only meeting expectations, but exceeding what they anticipated as they began, and they continue to do some of these testings leading up to this official date. As far as riderships, we heard from the director as well that by the end of the year, they expect 8,000 to 10,000 riders per day. You also heard there about just the carrying capacity. Riders will be allowed to, of course, sit in some of those areas, but because of its vastness and because of the how long it is, there are people that could actually stand up and enjoy this ride that would take about 22 minutes from the start of it in Kapolei or East Oahu, West Oahu, I should say, going east into the Halawa area and to Aloha Stadium. You heard their encouragement there for those individuals who are looking to utilize the service, not to wait to get your Holo Holo card now, and not to necessarily wait to get it as this train begins operations. They also mentioned at this, you can get more information here at this website at honolulu.gov/rail, where you can find more information about routes, about some of these fares, and what to anticipate with some of the many questions that probably will be, and no doubt will be coming up as riders experience this for the first time. They will be offering free service, as they said, that 4th of July weekend. So for residents as well as visitors to be able to experience what this train and what things will feel like. Again, that will be that 4th of July weekend as they begin operations. So a lot of excitement and anticipation in the community about this. Again, encourage you, if you have any more questions or would like to hear some of their comments from earlier, if you missed any portion of this show, to go back on the platforms of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. This will also run on Channel 50 later this evening, and also be developed into a podcast where you can listen to that a little bit later as well. We're looking forward to another exciting week of shows next week, which will include, we're going to tackle Red Hill and what's happening there and the impacts to those who have experienced some of the water issues in their own community. We'll also be catching up with the governor next week to hear how things are going as he continues to navigate this budget and finding out some of the items that may be on his veto list as he looks through some of the bills that have passed this legislative session. We hope you enjoy your weekend and enjoy Kamehameha Day on Friday. Thanks for tuning in to Spotlight Hawaii. I'm Ryan Kalesiji. We'll see you back here next week. Aloha.